Welcome to the Fourth Part Podcast, where Masons can meet to discuss Freemasonry, life, and the world around them. The opinions of the participants are their own and do not represent any Grand Lodge stance or opinion. And now here are your hosts, Worshipful Brother Matthew Andrew Sales, aka the Grumpiest Past Master, and Brother Daniel Massiana, aka the OG Daniel Son. Welcome to the Fourth Part Podcast. I'm your host, Brother Matthew Andrew Sales, Past Master and current Secretary of Babylon Lodge number 793. And with me is my co-host,
Brother Daniel Massiana, current Senior Warden, Babylon Lodge 793.
So we're finally here. A lot of anticipation. Me and you have talked about this a lot over the years. We got ourselves a nice little setup here. I love your gavel, by the way.
Thank you. I can't tell you where it was made, but
I think it's impressive. We've talked about doing this for a few years now. You know, we've spent a lot of hours after lodge talking just about anything. You know, at what point did you feel that we were like, all right, we could probably do this on film?
Well, that's one of the things that kind of brought me and kept me in Masonry was the conversation. Before I was even introduced into the craft, a lot of the guys who were current Masons, whether it was at work or in the public, you know, that conversation was what was happening. And it wasn't about people. It was about things of substance and lessons. Like, I always walked away from a conversation with a Mason full. And it's things that, you know, I've learned and held true and just continued to put into practice. What about you?
Exactly. When I first started in the lodge, you know, I was just a typical, let me just learn some ritual, you know, not want to stand in front of everybody and speak. But that's kind of grown on me through the years, being able to speak in front of people and be comfortable with presenting my thoughts and opinions. And something that kind of grew on me was the fact that in a Masonic lodge, there is that level of comfort where the brothers want you to do well. And that helps a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, again, like, how many times after lodge we sit, we talk, whether it's about how to improve the inner workings of the lodge or how to improve ourselves, even like, you know, wise counsel. It goes a long way, and it's nice knowing that you can lean on a brother, give him a call, you know, whether it's a lodge night prior or after, and just ask those questions. I mean, it's like going to the gym, and I always use this reference. The members are the workout equipment, you know. You got to use them. You got to talk to them. You got to have those conversations. I mean, it goes a long way.
That's true. You know, the one thing that a lot of people say when they're speaking in front of a lodge is that, man, I'm so uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And they get really nervous. And that's actually brings us to the title of our first episode, Masonic Conduct.
Right.
And kind of pointing out what is a major, I don't want to say mistake, mm-hmm. but someone who's not used to public speaking, what do they do that basically happens across the board no matter who you are? And that's filling that silence.
Right. I mean, even looking perfect. Everybody wants to look perfect. Everybody wants to sound perfect. But that thought I just said it, that thought process, the stopping to think, you have to kind of embrace it and embrace the silence. But how we fill up space is our brand, right? So to pause and be comfortable in that silence is essentially, you know, you're building the confidence up. You're saying there's an okay process. There's an acceptance where, you know what he's thinking, let's see, and it builds anticipation.
Right.
So you have to kind of hone that. But
right.
Sometimes people fill it with a curse. Sometimes they say write, what are some of the things you do?
Uh, is a big one. That's probably the biggest one I've ever heard when it came to people speaking publicly. But like you said, some people curse, and sometimes it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
It's not considered good etiquette. But let's be honest. I'd rather somebody be themselves than try to polish themselves past to the point that you can't tell who they are.
It's got to be a good mix, because you
Right.
can even use that as a attention grabber, right? Say something of substance, or if somebody's uptight, some comedic relief. It goes a long way.
Exactly.
But you have to be disciplined, because it's a monster to kind of hone.
Exactly. You can't be throwing around curse words nonstop.
F-bombs.
Yeah. I mean, we're all listen. We're from New York. New Yorkers are very well versed on how to
Right.
use curses in their, in their language when they talk. There's some pretty creative ways I've heard
Right.
the F word used, but
I mean, it's a what do they say? Something of measurement, right? A unit of measurement, right?
right, exactly. I think the biggest thing when people speak, they're afraid of the silence, which is a very hard thing to get over. That pause for you to try to gather your thoughts for a second. And we live in a very fast-paced world where everything's now, quick. And people feel that they need to fill that silence with something when they can end up losing the message they're trying to convey, because I feel that silence sometimes is necessary for the person who's listening to process it.
I mean, yeah, you gotta kind of, again, build anticipation. And I mean, it comes down to even sometimes over explaining yourself because you felt like you didn't get your message through. So when clarifying that message, or saying it different, or sounding educated and articulating words, you pause and the or even that's like how the Greek philosophers used to do put their arm.
Yeah.
It was a genius move, but I think how do you fill up space, whether it's physically or improving the silence?
Oof, that's a tough one. Maybe preparation beforehand. I feel sometimes people don't take the time to fully educate themselves on a subject unless it's just a random conversation. But if they're in lodge, maybe they hastily put together their speech and didn't take the time to really read it and try to understand it. Because I feel like sometimes it could happen where you throw together a speech and your heart's not really in it, and it sometimes could get a little away from you, and you need to you're just trying to spit it out as quick as you can, because again, they get nervous and they speed up, and there's no inflection, the timing isn't there.
Well, the art of grabbing attention, I feel we've come away from that. And reading. Half the people, you ask them if they read a book, and oh yeah, I listen to audiobooks. It's not the same, because it's not your brand. However that person is speaking, you tend to kind of emulate that. But when you're reading it in your voice, right? And of course, you're going to improve your brand, but there's a certain flavor that's Matthew Andrew Sales, right? Or Daniel Marciana, or anybody, any of these great speakers. But that's the thing that set them apart, it was unique, it was yours. So, to get back to reading, and also the discipline of a sentence. Look how far we've gotten away with that, LOLs and stuff like that. I mean,
right, just truncating everything we do to get it out
right,
as fast as we can. But I feel like an LOL is literally the text message version of Like,
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
sometimes, and I'm guilty of it myself sometimes, you're just, let me fill that space with something. I need to have some sort of response where it's just LOL. And maybe you weren't laughing,
Yeah, it's like LOL.
Yeah, because you just felt like there needed to be something there. And I feel like that's like that's the digital right?
Yeah. And again, it's just, finding perfection in the imperfection. And if it's something you say a lot, something you see, I normally would have said it, just but because it's conscious now, it's awkward, right?
Right.
And it's a speed bump with the actual message that you're going to deliver. So it makes it unorthodox. But again, if you make it conscious and then also say, hey, oh man, I say a lot. I'm trying to get out of that habit.
Right.
It happens.
Exactly. And you give the other person, if you don't ever give them a break, if there's not like a beat, someone who's maybe not as strong of a personality, if you're a very strong personality type of person, they might feel like I can't get a word in. I can't get my thought in. Or it could even maybe even come off of, I don't think this person cares what I have to say.
In referencing what, the or
If you're constantly speaking, and this is where I think me and you are good at it. We don't tend to talk over each other too much, but there's enough of a pause in our speech when we talk to each other that if someone wants to, jump in with a little bit of a thought or a
create a
tidbit,
lane, of course. And that's an art in itself, when you can create a safe environment for somebody to be expressive or express what they have to say, or even just including somebody. A lot of times when we're talking, it's around five. We're having a conversation with 5 or 6 different people, and it's the same conversation. So even in repeating what somebody just said, just to kind of give them that reassurance of, hey, listen, you were heard, and it keeps the conversation progressing. You don't have those so much of a and sometimes that is like, hey, I'm tagging you in, help me out.
right? It could be a call for help too. It could be like, oh boy, I dug myself down in this rabbit hole so deep. I don't know, I don't know where I lost where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Give me a little kickstart back on track.
What about like in more modern times when somebody's talking to you and you really don't even want to talk to them? You're like, yeah, that's crazy, or oh wow, oh okay, wow. Like after 3 or 4 of them, it's all right. Come on, I got to pick up apples or something at the supermarket.
Right, I gotta go change my muffler fluid in my car. Sorry, I gotta get out of here. So that'll kind of bring us to what I wanted to talk to you about and kind of try to explain to people what this podcast is. What do you think, or what do you want out of this podcast? Right. So let me make it clarified a little bit. Then, right. I guess we've talked about doing podcasts for a long time, and now we're finally doing it. What is your vision outside of what we've always kind of just jabbed about it a little bit here and there? What's like your vision of what we should do with this?
Well, again, to be a Mason in Lodge is always emphasized on, but I feel like you don't really give it enough attention on what it's like to be a Mason inside the real world, or on the outside of the real world, right? In the workplace, to be a Masonic husband, a father, and this is kind of that type of exposure where, hey, you have real world things that happen, or character building, being disciplined in the real world, just how you walk your walk of life essentially as a Mason, because that's what it is. It's a journey of discipline and constant trying to catch excellence, right? Trying to better yourself day by day, and then hopefully when it's all said and done, you look back and you said, "Wow, I did it right." Yeah. So, I mean, I'm passing it to you. What are your goals?
I've always been interested in the fact that we can have a conversation, you and I, unscripted and unfiltered, and we're always straight up with each other, and we don't sugarcoat anything.
No.
So for me, it'd be nice to show. Me and you work a lot.
Right.
You know, we still find time for lodge and our families, and we work a lot.
Absolutely.
You know, but we had a lot of conversations about what we've seen out in the world
Mm-hmm.
and how we're able to apply those Masonic teachings.
Right. The different walks of life.
Right.
You
Big
know?
on history and big on Masonic history.
So, if you know, what brought you to Masonry? Let's go that way. What initially your first exposure to Freemasonry? What was it?
So both my grandfathers were Masons.
Excellent.
My father wasn't. He was very busy working, you know, me and the family. And he said he just never found the time. You know, he's retired now, so hopefully he'll find some time to join the lodge. It was always something that interested me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that could be this old.
Was it the historical aspect of it? Was it the character building aspect of it? Constant, you know, shedding light on, hey, listen, this is a journey about becoming better and better and better. Was it the historical side? Like, what are some of the things, like, maybe explain to me what your grandfather was like.
Well, my mother's father,
Mm-hmm.
I never got to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Passed away when my mom was younger. Just lots of stories
Mm-hmm.
from my mother about him.
And she probably spoke about him with like this glow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said he was a great man. And my father's father, I was young
Mm-hmm.
when he passed away, but I remember him always, you know, my father just like him, always keeping busy, always working,
Right.
you know, always had some project going on, restoring Model A,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stuff like that.
That's one thing that I always admired about the older honorable gentlemen, especially, you know, you hear about Masons and who was a Mason, but that consciousness of, hey, I'm walking through life, I'm living life, but the legacy that I'm leaving behind, right? I'm carving an avenue. I'm leaving the next generation with a clean last name, and a reputation that goes with it. Because there's been times where I've been offered some opportunity because, oh, you're Alex is my father's name, but you're Alex's son, and I'm gonna look out for you because at one point he did that for me. So I'm sure you've experienced that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The one thing other than, you know, having family ties,
Mm-hmm.
I love history. You know,
Amen.
I love
Me too.
history, and when I was younger, you know, before I joined the lodge, I didn't really fully grasp like what esoteric
Mm-hmm.
meant, and you know, that type of thing, the philosophical part behind it, you know. And I ended up finding my love for philosophy and esoteric teachings and, you know, symbolism.
And philosophy, right? It's something we use loosely, that word. But what is philosophy to you?
The philosophy to me,
This is raw
Yeah.
footage right now.
so the philosophy to me is being able to step out of yourself
Mhm.
and observe your world.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I view philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the world, trying to take yourself out of your own personal lens for a
Mhm.
second, and trying to look at the world through a different lens
right.
than what you're used to looking at.
Not how you've been carved by life and its experiences. Like to take a step back reasonably, not emotionally, but logically. I agree. And so many historical figures, you know, have done that. And I guess, you know, what kind of builds philosophy is the constant facing of conflict, right?
Mhm.
I would think. So, you know, conflict forces you to do that because, especially over and over, the same type of conflict. Like, hey, I'm doing something wrong. I gotta change it up. You know.
Right.
What do you think? What
That's-
builds philosophy? What's one of the main ingredients that you get philosophy from?
That's a hard one. That's deep.
Sorry.
That, oh man, that's to talk about where philosophy actually originates from. I think it's from the ability for a man to say, if I'm going to teach other generations of men or women about the world, I need to, in any way possible, look at things that will carry on through history. Because perceptions, biases, social norms, what's accepted in society change through the years. And they knew this thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
What was acceptable during Plato's time, I'm sure in history, they had written history then, what was a few hundred years before, just how we live today. What's socially acceptable now, 25, 30 years ago, wasn't. But philosophy should be a universal outlook on life that can be applied through the ages.
Right. Like, even just in bare essence, right? Just making pleasure out of pain. Certain people are like, hey, listen, other people have it worse. That in its barest form, that's philosophy, right?
Right.
What's your philosophy? Help me out here. What type of philosophy do you face in the morning, or do you use in the morning to kind of get yourself going when you're having a hard day?
In the morning, oh man, again, that's hard. It's probably mostly subconscious. So to say that I actually sat and really thought about it, to think about it now, if I'm having a rough morning and it's nice outside, it's something as simple, and it sounds silly, but you're happy, you're alive, right? There's so many other people in the world that are hurting, or people that are living in countries that are difficult to live in, maybe.
Right.
And you can always tell yourself things could be a lot worse.
That's philosophy. I mean, even just you saying it, and that's one of the best things about conversation when you're having, good conversation, is you can have an idea, and as you're asking the question, somebody else is speaking, and you're like, oh wait, that just popped in, right? So you a lot of times you're giving the advice that you in fact need. So just in you saying that, I'm like, okay, philosophy is just being aware of where your subconscious is at the moment in time, right? And then, some people have a negative philosophy. There's different subjects of philosophy. Excuse me. And yeah, just that whole thing is, somebody will say, hey, how's your day going? And you'll say, hey, as long as God woke me up, I can handle the rest. I've heard that many times from people, and that's a philosophy I've adopted. And it helps me get through the day and also be a positive light for people around me. So
yeah. I feel like people sometimes get stuck in this loop of, man, I need a sign. Like, I've heard people say this, like, I'm having a bad day. I just, I
it's
need
a
a
rut,
sign.
especially nowadays.
It's a rut. Yeah, it's a rut. But in Masonry, we have our symbols,
Ritual.
our ritual.
And which when we say ritual, for people who aren't Masons, getting up and brushing your teeth in the morning, that's a ritual. So it's something that's done repetitively, that has some type of significance.
Right. It doesn't have to be this spooky, creepy thing that
Right.
people think it is. It's something that has been done for hundreds of years, or even longer, that carry a meaning.
Yeah.
And it's noteworthy of not changing it. And that's what the ritual is that, like you said, getting up, brush your teeth in the morning. It's something that you just do for a reason.
To accomplish a goal, right?
Accomplish a goal, and you don't change it. Because that goal actually has a purpose.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it has a significance in everyday life. And that's what Masonry has its ritual for. It's meant to teach certain things to people so they can utilize that stuff in their daily lives.
Yeah, and also the discipline in doing that, right? Getting up, going to the gym. That's a ritual. Certain people hold it tight, other people's are a little bit loose, but the end result of the discipline of that ritual enhances the experience. And not only that, but it's a more fulfilling experience. So you're not only seeing the results, but feeling the results. And in masonry, that discipline, I think, is one of the emphases. Is that a word? Emphasis or emphasis?
You're asking me. I was a math major in
Oh,
college.
man. So I don't know. We'll make it a word today. Emphasis.
Emphasis.
Of the Masonic.
Yeah.
But right, emphasis.
Right. So, okay, so we'll move on to since we have our ritual,
Mm-hmm.
and why do you think sometimes lodges have slightly fading attendance at regular meetings? Is there a specific thing that you could think of? I'll tell you mine after I ask yours.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think's missing from a Masonic lodge that, or something that maybe we do too often that hurts attendance? If we're able to try to take out, if we're able to try to take out, you know, social issues. You know,
I
the
think
economy being, you know,
Right.
not the greatest. Maybe people need to work extra, you know, and taking
I
out
think
more
working-
normal family,
Yeah.
normal family stuff that pops up with people. I'm talking in general.
I mean, life gets in the way. Life gets in the way of anything. You know, I used to watch baseball all the time. I can't. Life got in the way. But masonry offers a different type of experience. It's a self-building experience. And I think what hurts lodge attendance, and I can only speak for Suffolk District because I've never traveled outside of that.
Right.
I've been a Mason since 2014. I'm not a new guy, essentially, but compared to our membership, I am a new guy.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got some guys who got some time in.
I think the questions, again, asking the newer members, what are you trying to get out of this? What are you trying to get out of this? And what did you see coming into? Where were you disappointed in the experience? How are we failing, right? And that'll take care of some of the information on how to make it better. But I think also just challenging the members. A lot of times we're scared to scare new guys away. And just holding them accountable and say, hey, you know, you came here not wanting to see what we can do for you, but what you can do for us. And that goes a long way because holding the membership accountable, challenging men to do things, whether it's making themselves uncomfortable in a way where you're into new learning experience, right? Speaking in front of a crowd was something I was never really good at. And it I don't want to say it frightened me, but it was definitely an uncomfortable experience. But after I did it so often in front of the brotherhood, it helped me out in the real world. It helped me out in my career. And it helped me out in also making somebody who was publicly speaking feel comfortable because I was on that spot.
Do you feel like that? I've heard the method or the tactic that some people have done in lodges is say, give the brothers a job, and they'll come around.
Make it yours.
And I've heard if you want someone to feel involved, give them something to talk about. That could be enormously terrifying to some people
Right.
to speak. And I mean, to speak in front of people. And I know lodges have done, you know, we're gonna have public speaking classes and stuff like that, you know. But maybe they should start off with saying, you don't have to stand in front of me to even give a speech. You know, we can just give you this little part of the ritual. That could be your
That'll
public.
definitely go a long way.
That'll
Right.
give you. That'll be your public speaking. Is, you know, you have a few lines in the ritual. You know, or you know what? Just why don't you try this little piece of the opening and the closing? You know, something like that,
Right.
and that'll get it kick started. But so my view is that sometimes there are a few different people that join
Mm-hmm.
Masonry. You've got brothers that are into the symbolism, the philosophy, the esoteric nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got brothers that are all in about charity work and giving back to the community. And you got brothers that are just about the fellowship. Some time out of the house, have some fellowship, meet some nice guys, have a good time, have family parties to come to.
Right.
And we have to try to find something that appeals to all of those at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes lodges neglect one or the other, or maybe two of the three. I mean, I'm sure there's some other categories, but a well-rounded lodge, in my humble opinion, is something kind of touch on each one of those to give those different brothers reasons why they join.
Right. I mean, even we get a group of members that come in every once in a while. 2 years, 1 year. Some lodges get, sometimes 6 or 7 brothers joining in that year, and you're kind of like me and you came in at the same time, and we've always been close because you kind of went through the quarries, if you will, and your Masonic journey was very similar to mine. So to even if the individual is scared to, I don't want to say scared, but it's kind of like a recluse, right? He doesn't like the attention, but putting him in a group with his fellow brothers that came in at the same time, they can go through it as a group and then kind of feed off, and you can see certain people's strong points because not everybody's ready to jump into ritual.
No,
And certain
absolutely
people,
not.
they kind of want to disappear, and they're fine sitting in the northeast corner of the lodge. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Have you ever asked anybody, that maybe hasn't been around
Mm-hmm.
in a while? Like, what brings you back? Or what made you, and really tried to get that answer out of them besides, and listen, I believe our brothers, what they say,
Yeah, right.
family or from, but, it's probably, family or work and maybe something else that happened.
Well, I believe if there's something you want to do, you're going to make time for it. And again, if a brother kind of doesn't show up as often, I think it's something is lacking in the experience that he was looking for and he didn't get. So again, I think asking these brothers before and after,
Right.
once they first join, and hey, what do you think that can make it better? Because I've seen guys, having had that question asked to them, and they didn't like the answer, and they never show back up. I've seen guys talk about silly things, and the art of having a conversation for many people isn't as strong. So
Yeah.
they get discouraged because they can't really articulate their thoughts. And a lot of times people, you say something and it triggers a nerve, and you get into these little conversations about pyramids and who built the pyramids, and then the next thing you know, it's like, wait a minute, I thought
Yeah,
these guys
you're
had the
way
answers.
down the rabbit hole. Yeah, you end up.
Right.
That sounds like
Right.
our conversations
Right.
where all of a sudden people walking by us are like,
Yeah, what are
these two
talking
guys
about?"
talking about?"
Right.
Like, but they didn't, they didn't hear the
The whole
2
thing, yeah.
hours before that,
Right.
that, which kind of again brings us back to what we're looking out of this podcast. I think the format we should stick with, and we'll see where it goes. There's quite a different ways we can go. I think let's just try to have this to be every episode just becomes one long conversation,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we'll just
That's
roll
been
it
our
and roll with
brand.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll just roll with it and see where it goes, and eventually we'll be able to take some suggestions.
Absolutely.
TikTok or Instagram. People want to throw some. I talk about this or whatever. Let's.
Yeah, I mean, even like I know you had spoken to some of the other brothers, some of the more seasoned veterans in the craft, and I think giving a voice, like we had spoken before, you actually were first to bring it up. We have members in this lodge that are 92 years old,
Yeah.
75 years old, 60 years old. to give those brothers a voice.
There's
Speak
so
to
much.
us. I mean, I'm 34. How old are you?
I'll be 37
Like
in a couple weeks.
we're the meat and potatoes right now of masonry.
Right.
And hearing some of the older brothers speak sometimes, we all lose sight sometimes. Sometimes you love your job for 20 years and you get that 1 year where it's just like, oh man, I'm tired. It
Right.
happens with masonry. It happens with everything.
Right.
But there's certain things that happen where you're like, this is why I do this. Whether it's a good
Yeah.
degree,
Yeah, there's so
or
much that I've
new
seen it
blood in the
happen.
lodge too. Like new, and I shouldn't say that for the conspiracy theorists out there, but you get a member who's really
We got to get
about it.
ourselves a tinfoil hat prop for the
Yeah,
altar.
I'll wear it. But yeah, some of the new brothers that are really gung ho about it, and they've just been through very tough times in their life, and you see what this does for them. Whether it's understanding their purpose or what they can offer. I shouldn't say their purpose, but what they can offer to a system, to an environment, to society. I think it's very important to also just be conscious of that. If you're in lodge, just look around, see who's how the lodge is functioning. Right, we have round tables downstairs in our coalition room, and there's been times where we put the round tables away and we put the long tables out, like almost like a tavern style.
Yeah.
And you just watch the brothers and how they interact. Space to catch up a certain way where the guy's got to say, hey, excuse me, can you pass me that? Oh, by the way, where you from? I've never seen you here before.
Right. Pushing the brothers together.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain
sometimes
ways
just
to
sticking
do
them
it.
in the lodge
Right.
room. We did that in my year too, where I was like, you know what? Enough of the separate round tables.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're gonna set this
Yeah,
up.
it's clicky.
Right. We're gonna, and it's unintentionally. It's not like it's these
Nah,
brothers
of
like,
course
I
not.
don't want to hang out. It's just you have a table that fits 8 around it, and you end up with 10 tables. With
Right.
people spread out all over the place. A couple guys hanging out by the bar, or a couple guys talking in the kitchen, and then everyone's spread out. No one's spending
Yeah.
that time to have that conversation with each other.
Some people don't want to talk, but
But sometimes, and
you need that push.
this is kind of where I've said this to brothers about lodge. I get, right. I get coming to lodge is tiring, right. I get we work a lot. We work a lot in this day and age. We commute, at least in New York, you get, most people work in or around the city. If you live out in Long Island like we do, you got to commute, get on the train, drive a car, or you live upstate in Jersey, you got to go to the city.
Right.
A
Life gets
lot
in
of
the
the
way.
right, a lot of the
Life gets in the
metropolitan
way.
areas, and if you live in a rural area too, like if you're working on a farm,
Right.
or if you're a construction worker, it's long hours, and it can get exhausting coming to lodge. We specifically in New York and our particular lodge, we meet twice a month.
Yeah.
September through June, with a couple exceptions here or there. And brothers have said like, oh my god, like, and I'm guilty of it myself. I've felt I work crazy day at work. Traffic was insane coming home. And you've got your family if you got a family at home, or you're just tired in general. And then you get home and you're like, oh my god, I gotta take a shower. I gotta put a suit on, and I gotta go drive to lodge.
I could definitely see that, but I must say that those are the days where for me I find it easier to come to lodge because you go. Let's just say you go to the bar. You had a rough day. You go to the bar, right? You sit next to somebody. Hey, how you doing? So and so. I'm all right. So man, how was your day? Oh, it was rough, man. I had this, and that happen. And then first thing out of the other guy is, oh yeah, me too. But he had it way worse than you, right? Even though it might not have been, but it was way worse.
Right.
When you come to lodge, you have more of a, hey brother, how's it going? Oh, okay. Hey, when I'm feeling like that, this, right? It's a more helping environment or offering like more mental peace, right? You feel heard. It's not a competition thing.
Right.
Not that it should be. or it was at the bar. Because when I hear something like that, I'm just like, whatever, bro. I don't care. Okay. Oh, sorry to hear that. But and not even that I'm open like that anyway. But when you come to lodge, generally people are trying to kick game to you. They're trying to help you out. They're trying to
Right, they're
save.
checking in on you.
Right.
They
checking in,
genuinely
yeah.
feel
Genuinely care.
right. So, and I guess this conversation I've had sometimes with younger Masons,
Mm-hmm.
Masons that are newer to the craft. You've been in the craft for 25 years. You get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to tell guys, sometimes when you don't want to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you could have a great lodge. You could have a lodge that's a ton of fun, and it's always got a ton of stuff going on. But again, you work all day, you got a family, whatever. And let's take the aspect of you going to lodge. We're just going to assume that you going to lodge doesn't affect your home life at all. Your wife's okay with it. Kids, it fits into your life. You're not neglecting them in any way, shape, or form. But you're just drained from the day.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't.
Tired.
I gotta
Overtime.
I gotta get into a suit. I gotta drag. God knows how far you live from your lodge.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're driving back the direction you just came past to go
Right.
home. But I've told guys this.
Mm.
I've felt that feeling quite a bit. It's happened, and some of the best nights that I've had, the most fun or the most enlightening,
When you didn't want to come.
are the nights, the nights that I forced
Push
myself,
through, right.
right, not leaving anything on the table at home, right, not worrying about like, oh, I gotta cut the lawn, oh, I gotta, no,
It's
everything's taken care of.
Serendipity, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and I forced my power through it, dragged myself to the building
Well,
and got into those doors to collation, and immediately welcomed. Everyone's
was it
happy to see you, like just how brothers are with each other.
the absence of expectations that gave you that experience? Because it's just like, man, it was a rough day. Let me just get this over with, And there was no expectations, and it was just you kind of flowed with the energy. What do you
So
think?
in the beginning, before I was an officer,
Mhm.
there wasn't this level of obligation
Okay.
that I
see where
felt
you're going.
obligated, as in I wanted to see certain people, but there wasn't this like, I have something I need to get done here.
Yeah, it's like a job sometimes.
Yeah, that's why it's important, I feel, for lodges to get their brothers involved. It could be so small,
Right.
and give them something to do. There might even be that little bit of, I gotta get there because this is my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it could work both ways too.
Right, you don't want to overwhelm them,
Yeah, because like,
because
oh,
they're like,
man, I
oh
don't
god,
wanna
they're
be-
just dumping stuff on me. Because the lodges can be guilty of that sometimes too. They just
Right.
they ask too much of too little of people. Right? They
Some
ask,
people rise.
there's
and
a small,
thrive in
oh
that,
yeah,
though, but
they can, and
for
they
the-
could
for
end
the
up expiring
average,
people
right.
too. But it could also happen where you ask too much out of the too small of a group. I feel, and then you fatigue.
burn out, right?
You
They burn out.
fatigue that group into it. But
Yeah.
like I've said, it's for me. It was those days that I've dragged myself there.
Mhm.
It was some of the best nights that I've had in lodge.
I can agree. That's happened to me a bunch of times. A lot of times I come home, I'm 2 hours sleep, and I'm like, oh man, got to shave, got to shower. I got 5 minutes to get into this tuxedo, and I don't know how I'm gonna do it. And then you get there late, and here we go, it's late again. Like, if you only knew.
Right.
Don't play with me. I'll leave right now.
They may break. We may bust chops.
I gotta
but
do
we
this
get it.
ritual,
Your brothers
right?
will understand. It.
Right.
They'll understand it.
Right. No, it's important though. But again, I think nobody asks you to come here.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I think that's where we come far away from the discipline again, because you made an obligation Nobody asked you to come here.
Right.
You asked one to be one. You see it on the lapel pins. You asked, right? So you got to put in the work. You made the commitment, and you have to honor your commitment. And it doesn't matter, man, woman, anything, non-binary. You make a commitment. You gotta follow through.
Yeah.
Or you lose that value in your word.
Right. It's people nowadays sometimes they can throw it around their word,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't realize how important being able to rely on somebody can be. That can be, being able
So
to
heavy.
say
So heavy.
it's kind of like its own lost art, right? I feel like sometimes people you want to underpromise and overdeliver,
Oh, that's big. I like
then overpromise and
That's
underdeliver.
a highlight. That's a highlight.
Yeah, you always want to underpromise and overdeliver,
Right,
because
yeah.
then they don't feel like I'm breaking my word,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't want to, and it's not a giving yourself an out. It's managing expectations.
Well, also intention, because a lot of times people over deliver with the wanting of something back, right? And they'll say, "Hey, if I do this for this guy, he's got this connect, that connect," right? Networking is a big part of masonry,
Yeah.
but that shouldn't be that shouldn't be your motive. And I see that too. A lot of guys, they come into lodge and they promise with this expectation of, but like you just started watering the tree and you're trying to pick the fruit already. There's got to be longevity. There's got to be understanding, and the intention should just be to give without the receiving, right? Let karma
Right.
play a part. Let the natural process of goodwill fall into your lap, right? The kismet is right there. Serendipity. Those words, they mean stuff. Look them up.
Yeah, we tend to pick our words
Yeah.
and our symbols for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll dive into that, I think, next episode.
Yeah.
We'll dive into that language and the meanings of words.
Right. Instead of using use Ali Ali Oxenfree. I don't know.
Abracadabra.
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 Let it be known, right? Was that the
Yes.
word? Something like that.
We would be careful. We'll end up diving into things we
Right.
haven't done research on. But I am proud of it. I'm
Mhm.
proud of the fact that we can have these conversations and we don't script anything. We may say, "Hey, let's just start with this," and we'll just go from there. But me and you, we don't write stuff down.
No,
I mean, I write stuff down now because I'm the secretary of the lodge,
right.
but I just write down the important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. I think because we value the hard times, because we know you're gonna get something out of it, right? Your greatest team player is actually your greatest opponent, right? Because it brings out another side of you that a lot of times you didn't know existed. We talk about some of the greatest sports franchises. They were that great because they overcame their rival, right?
Right.
The competition within yourself to overachieve and beat yourself, to be your own greatest opponent is a big thing. But again, I think because we value us not being ready and say, "Hey, what happens? Let me throw myself in this uncomfortable situation and see how I come out." And then it's a feather in the cap, because when you see another brother struggle, you say, "Hey, listen, I was there, and this, and that." And what got me started, the first step wasn't the actual step. It was the thought process, the philosophy of, "Hey, listen, we're going to make this work. I'm going to bet on myself."
Yeah. Well, I think we'll go for today,
Yeah.
and we'll continue this conversation on our next episode. So was always a pleasure.
And you look great. You look great, by the way.
Thank you. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be wearing the same suit in the next episode because we're going to
it's
film it
part
right
2,
now.
right?
This is part 2.
Part
yeah.
2. I like it.
Yeah. We're such busy people, so
I
people
know.
don't think like, oh man, these guys never wash their suits.
Right.
No, we're going to be filming several
it's not the same.
episodes.
I'm going to lose my tie, though. Right.
Well, we'll film several episodes a night. We'll just
Okay.
read them out
Sounds
a
good.
little bit at a time.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody, for joining the Fourth Part Podcast.
Take care, guys.